Like a moth to flame. Chapter 2. Leo had no idea where he was. One second he was in his room. The next, he's on some beach. A beach that was apparently infested with ninjas. Actual, real-life ninjas. It would be so cool if they didn't immediately attack him. But that's been his life since even before he discovered he was a demigod. He can never catch a break. His experience allowed him to get away and stay away when they came after him. Something was in the air in this place. Something was telling him that if he got caught, he wouldn't be coming out the same person. It was fine, honestly. He had survived gods, a few mortals, albeit mortals very skilled in martial arts, are nothing. Beautiful things can be deadly. He's seen the Aphrodite cabin, and the island was ethereal, like the Garden of Eden or those oases in Slime Rancher. He kept holding his breath. He wanted to believe he could defeat this, but lying to himself wouldn't help. Demigods falling to hubris was too common. He wasn't adding himself to the list. So he ran and he hid. He told himself that if it came to it, he would win in a fight, but deep down he knew the truth. Not that it mattered. After 2 days, his confidence and his energy draining, they finally caught him. He would finally find out why he was running in the first place. Men in clad black dragged him for hours through greenery poisoned by ash that he had created. They even confiscated his tool belt, which Leo thought was very rude. Eventually, they arrived at a grand building. It had subtle power in it. Nothing was in your face, but subconsciously you understood a god could live here. Like the island, it felt wrong. It felt dangerous, but Leo had no choice but to enter. He was desperate to fiddle with his hands, or even be able to just crack a knuckle or two, but the ninjas held him in place. The kind of life he led that he could say that and entirely mean it, absolute madness, isn't it? Dealing with the gods was tough, but this stuff went too far into the unbelievable territory. Rambling was his only comfort. "All right, man, I'll keep still. Geez, you need to calm down," Leo exclaimed as the ninja holding him manhandled him a bit too roughly. Every trinket and knick-knack he broke gave him a slight bits of satisfaction. Whoever owns this golden palace would be at least a little inconvenienced. It's all about those small wins. As they got closer, an ornate set of doors, Leo's fire grew. It came in increments. His desperation to escape would peak, and so would the fire, but then his fear of burning these actual humans, not monsters, would take over, and the fire would die. Distracted by his efforts, he didn't notice when the doors pushed open. Soon enough, he stood before a crusty man dressed up in green robes, like some kind of cult leader. His back was straight, and he leaned his head in a way that allowed him to look down on Leo, even more than his already greater height did. This guy was sick. Skin thin as paper, muscles constantly tense, and a green tint to everything about him. The green haze upset Leo the most. The man's clothes were almost enough to hide it, with how faint it was, but it was there, and once Leo saw it, he couldn't look away. He had seen a lot of unexplainable things in his life. It takes a lot to truly shock him. Finally, Leo stilled. The green confused him into it. The man took his opportunity to speak. "Who are you?" Leo wanted to make a quip, some joke to make him seem infallible, but it simply wasn't there. In a near whisper, he responded, "Leo?" The man hummed like a strict teacher. Leo suddenly felt like he was on a stage, auditioning for the biggest role in the world. I'll ask once more. Who are you? He paused between each word in the question. And what are you doing on Infinity Island? Leo coughed to remove the bug caught in his throat, but his voice still came out hoarsely and hesitant. I'm Leo. Valdez? I don't know why I'm here. Honestly. He rushed to defend himself as the ninja's hold tightened. I genuinely don't know. I was in my room and then a portal opened up and suddenly I'm here. The man leaned back in contemplation, manspreading a bit too much, but Leo guessed the guy was trying to make a point. On his right hand, Leo crossed and uncrossed his fingers. It got him a few strange looks, but it settled his nerves a little. What can you do? Leo froze. Huh? What can you do? You escaped us for 2 days. How? There was a faux patience in his words, an unspoken timer that had been set for Leo's answer before stuff got bad. Or rather, worse than they had been going. Fire! There was no point in lying. They had already seen it. Only fire? Who the heck is this guy? People aren't usually this casual about his powers, but the guy has a whole legion of ninjas, so he's probably got a few cogs loose. Only fire! Leo answered louder than he had been speaking previously. And yet, the man said more to himself than to Leo. Suddenly, the man was up and stalking closer to him. He felt like a hamster in a pet shop. When the man grabbed his face and started inspecting it, Leo felt something. The green haze took over his vision. He could almost feel the color. His heart was beating so heavy in his chest that his vision thumbed alongside it like some giant was stomping in front of him. A pit of green lava. That's what they were floating over. Nobody reacted to the sudden change of environment. Nobody reacted when they fell. Nobody reacted when the sizzling green peeled away Leo's skin. Bubbles popped beside his ear, near deafening him. Beyond the pool, there was nothing. Leo was nothing beyond it. His own skin drifted around him, slowly began, died like every other part of him. His heart went dangerously fast as he boiled. Every gasp for air filled his mouth with more green. He tried to convince himself that it was some up energy drink, and to be fair, the taste wasn't half bad, but the burn ingrained itself into his memory right beside his last night with his mama. And then it was over. In a century, only a second had passed, and he was still in the hall. That crusty man still holding his face curiously, if even a bit more startled than before. Who are you? Leo's voice came out hoarse. The man nodded to one of the ninjas, and quickly he was being pulled away. Disoriented, he felt like his soul had been split in two before joining together again. He spoke. Your stay with us does not have to be difficult. You do as you're told, and little harm will come to you. Leo nodded, just to make things faster. Then I believe that some further study is required. Through the halls, Leo was dragged painfully slow, the man leading the way. If he weren't so scared, he would have nodded off from how bored he was. Eventually, they arrived at an imposing set of stairs. Leo had a sense of foreboding. Shivers ran up and down his body despite getting hotter the further they went down. From one step to another, Leo suddenly felt everything. the thick air touching him and the sweat on his body cooling, his hair itching a particular spot behind his ear. The pit was near. He knew it, and apparently the man was aware of that. The closer they got, the more intrigued he looked, and the more Leo tried to slow down their journey. His efforts were futile. They had finished their descent. It was there, right in front of him, the green, and the ninjas kept forcing him closer to it. His attempts of escape got vicious, scratching and clawing at the ninjas. Leo did everything he physically could, but it never mattered. When did his attempts ever matter? They started with a finger, then got confident enough for the whole arm before finishing the display by throwing his entire self in. As painful as it had felt earlier, and the 10 times more real, the pit consumed him. Green seeped into his eye sockets. It soaked his clothes and went under his fingernails and swirled around inside his lungs until Leo was gone. And once again, he was pulled out of it. Why did it never just finish him? Unconsciously, Leo had set himself alight. The only thing his mind was green, so for the first time in his life, he didn't pay it any mind and let himself burn. Things slowly dissipated, and he could see the room once more. He could see the man staring at him, wide eyes, but satisfied smirk. He could see the ninjas taking small steps back. He could see the green fire coming off of him. That was new. Leo looked back at the man with horror. He couldn't speak, but he didn't need to. The man sensed panic. The Lazarus pits really are a wonder, aren't they? After Leo's swim, he was forced back upstairs and trapped in an admittedly comfortable-looking room. The bed was soft, and there was a huge open window looking out onto the island that he had wandered cluelessly for 2 days. That was how it was for the next week. Leo learned minimal information about his situation, what the Lazarus pits were, what they did to him, and what they wanted with him. However, he managed to at least learn his captor's name, Ra's al Ghul, the demon's head of the League of Shadows, as he had quite dramatically labeled himself. The days were spent waiting in his room or talking at silent ninjas. Very few signs of Ra's al Ghul fella. When he did show up, it was only to ask Leo about his powers, which he admittedly refused to do. His fire didn't need to be observed. It needed to be repressed. Especially whatever this green stuff was. It seemed Roz never got the memo, though, as on day 8, Leo once again found himself being dragged somewhere. The training room he was brought to looked to have been destroyed and rebuilt so many times. Roz stood front and center. Leo Valdez, I think it's about time we get a showcase of your capabilities. He had a tone of faux kindness that Leo heard so many times before. No! It was hard to speak up in Roz's presence. That is not an option anymore, Firebringer. That was his only warning before the man charged at him. Leo would consider himself fast. You had to be as a demigod, but nothing could prepare him for the attack. No monster had been that fast. Brought his arms up to protect against the hits, but it didn't do much against the actual trained martial artist. Even without weapons, the man knocked Leo back and forth like a punching bag. It happened so quickly. The only thing he could keep track of was his own frantic breathing. Panic attacks were nothing unique, but it was definitely not the right time. Even so, his steps were wobbly, his chest tight. No monsters were ever that fast. Fog covered his brain, and shut his eyes tight. He could smell the fire before he felt it. He didn't mean to. He didn't want to. He just couldn't control himself. His arms curled in on himself, trying to make himself as small as possible. Raz said something, but whatever it was lost to Leo. All he could hear was some monster's growl in his left ear and his mother's pained cries in the other. Hands suddenly grabbed onto him. No! The fire spread to the other person against his will. It was his body's natural defense system. He thrashed in their hold, begged them to get away, but it was all fuzz. His own words barely made sense to him. At some point, he was speaking gibberish. That's enough. That's enough. Screaming reached his ear. He froze. The fire burned, but Leo went completely limp. Roz continued. That's very good. You did well. Leo didn't understand what he did well, but he left himself in Roz's grip nonetheless. You are very special, Leo Valdez. Your powers are nothing like I have ever seen before. Nonsense mumbles came out of him in an attempt to dispute Roz's words, but the man kept talking. I've somehow managed to merge the power of the Lazarus pits with your own. It is spectacular. Leo still hadn't calmed down. Roz took a minute to think before moving the two. He gently laid him on the ground and leaned down to his level. See here. He pulled his trouser leg to reveal his thigh. I had been injured from a fight earlier this month. You healed that injury. Leo didn't really understand. Your powers were capable of that. It's a blessing more than anything else. You healed me. He stared silently at the spot. It seems you need further demonstration. The man got up before Leo could even realize what he was doing, pulled a knife from the walls. What? Leo called out, but he kept going. He slashed at his hand. Blood gushing out. Leo wanted to gag, but all his energy had depleted. He just sat there, mouth wide open, each step shaking Leo to his core. The man turned to a spot. Turn on your fire. There was a hesitation, but ultimately submission. Instead of the green, it had been normal. Orange fire came out. The Lazarus fire, Roz commanded. The green? I don't know what to do. I don't even know what that is. Leo's voice rose. Danger spread onto Roz's face, and Leo flinched back. And that's nobody's failure but your own. Have you no understanding of your own powers? The man relaxes slightly. Come here. Keep the fire burning. Like a scared dog, Leo brought his flaming hand closer to Roz, and he did not move when Roz clasped said hand. Skin sizzled, but Leo was too scared to move. What kind of coward was he? Focus. Whatever aversion you have to the fire, forget about it. This fire is a part of you, and no amount of hatred will change that. So, forget about it and focus. Leo did, albeit pathetically. If Leo was shaking as much as he felt he was, Roz certainly could feel it too. The Lazarus fire, you wonder what it is. The boy nodded. I appreciate word answers, Firebringer. Yes, he meekly replied. Lazarus pits. You never forget how it feels. Pull from that. Take the pain and the anger and turn it into power. Whatever happened when you went under, it changed your fire, in ways I don't yet understand. I had my theories, and today they were confirmed. And if you would be so kind as to bring forth the Lazarus fire, I can show you. So take the pain you felt, that sense of dread, and use it. Focus. That's all Leo had to do. So many times in the past he had tried to meditate, or mindfulness, or sitting still in class. It never worked. Nobody bothered to help him understand, to explain to him that his brain worked differently, and that it wasn't his fault. Probably because they actually did think it was his fault. Nobody taught him ways to adapt or adjust so that he could just survive in a neurotypical world. The only person to ever give anything about him was his mama, and she wasn't trained psychologist. Goodwill isn't enough to fix everything. She couldn't comfort him after the fact, but never prevent the pain in the first place. That was enough for him. All he needed was her. The rest of the world could go to hell. So, he never learned how to focus when he actually had a home, and you can bet that he would never learn in the places he found himself afterwards. Camp wasn't good either. For a place full of ADHD-saddled demigods, their support services were few to none. There was barely even support for those who were still suffering the effects of 2 wars. If Leo wanted a safe place to explore the inner workings of his brain, he wasn't finding it at camp, and it's not like he ever wanted to explore his powers in the first place, so he put them both together. A death wish. And that's clearly what it was. The man let his hand burn, his skin peeling off like a particularly sloppy face mask. There was no choice in the matter. If Leo was learning how to focus, it was here and now. With each second, Leo was actually aware of Ra's silence until Ra's faded from his mind and all he could think of was the fire. Everything else was irrelevant, including the hand holding his own. Slowly, he understood the fire. He could predict each lick of flame. The pits returned to him, but he forced it into the background. He caged the feelings. Any burn he felt in the pit, he brought forth to the fire, and finally, it started turning into the poison apple green color. Good, Roz praised, and Leo couldn't help but agree. His fire had never brought him happiness. He had always pictured the ideal scenario as him having a very reserved relationship with the flame, like one you would have with a coworker you don't like. It never occurred to him that he could enjoy working with it, that he could master it as another limb and feel pride in his control of it. Roz removed his hand. All burns had been washed away by the green. Do you understand now what your fire is capable of? He nodded. When Roz's subtle smirk dropped slightly, Leo answered again. Yes. Good, good. The Lazarus pits have saved my life many times, and to think you could do that with just your flame? If I hurt someone, I could fix it. I could heal them. The man nodded. Why? He took a second to think before answering. Perhaps you could have provided further insight. Where did you come from? Why here? I can only assume you were meant to be led to the pits. I generally don't know. I was in the bunker, but this portal just opened and sucked me into it. A bunker? Yes. And how did you get your powers? Leo paused, continued at Ra's expectant face. Do you know Greek mythology? Yes. I'm a demigod of Hephaestus. I'm his son. Greek gods are real. Leo waited for the shock and surprise. Instead, Roz continued. And your powers are a result of this. Your fire. Yeah, they are. I don't know how that led to this. He held up the Lazarus fire. Roz stood up, and Leo rushed to follow him. Tell me more. And Leo did. He described camp and the war. He went into his childhood, pointedly avoiding talking about his mother. As he started to mention the bunker, Roz interrupted him. Do you know of Wonder Woman? Leo just stared at him blankly. Who the heck was Wonder Woman? What kind of name is that? he thought out loud. Superman? No, Batman. What is wrong with these people? Batman? Seriously? Is it like a werewolf situation? And is he half man or half bat? Roz ignored his incredulity. Interesting. Firebringer, I don't think this is your Earth. What? Whatever that portal was, it's taking you from your own universe and placed you in ours. Like dimension traveling? Leo let out a nervous laugh. Was that even possible? Yes. No, that's not. But how am I going to get back? Roz looked sympathetic. No, I got here somehow, so there has to be a way back. The man seemed to reassess. There may be. I certainly have the resources to look further into it. Yeah? But it may take months, years even. In that time, I wonder what could happen to you. Someone lost in a world they have no understanding of. This jerk. Leo looked at him, hoping he wouldn't make him say it. He didn't take the bait. Could I stay here? The Firebringer asked. Certainly. Leo relaxed, but Roz continued. There are, however, conditions. Everyone on this island does their part. You won't be the exception. And what will that be? He held his breath. All that I ask is that you help me understand your powers and, if necessary, heal any wounds. Okay, yeah, I can do that. Honestly, Leo thought he was getting off kind of easy. If he got to stay in the expensive room on this beautiful island and just give a few power showcases in return, he would say he's getting a pretty sweet deal. Well then, allow me to give you a tour.